Johnson & Johnson has comforted generations with its products such as baby shampoo and talcum powder. Yet behind the sterile white strips and comforting logo, all is not as it may seem. So sit down, smell the antiseptic, feel the cool touch of a Band-Aid, and brace yourself to uncover the hidden story of Johnson & Johnson. But remember, every rose has its thorns, and this tale is no exception. In the heart of 1886, New Brunswick, New Jersey, a small but potent seed was being sown. Amid the clatter of horse-drawn carriages and the air rich with the smell of coal and the thrill of industry, three brothers were embarking on a journey that would change American healthcare forever. They were the Johnson brothers, Robert, James, and Edward. Each as distinct as they were unified in purpose. Robert, the eldest, was the anchor of the trio, a pragmatic businessman with a head of thick, wavy hair and a gaze that suggested he was always 2 steps ahead. James, the middle brother, was the creative engine. His quick wit and passion for innovation mirrored in his lively green eyes and animated gestures. Edward, the youngest, was a boundless source of energy, a vibrant spirit whose laughter was as infectious as his dedication to their cause. And their mission was ignited by an impassioned speech by Joseph Lister, a well-known surgeon advocating for sterile surgical supplies. That spark of an idea kindled a fire in their minds. The brothers set about transforming the concept into reality, working tirelessly in their small, makeshift lab. Their hands were often raw from the countless hours spent perfecting the sterile dressings, their minds buzzing from the constant brainstorming sessions around the worn wooden table. Once launched, their sterile dressings were nothing short of revolutionary. They were a beacon of safety in the high-risk, high-stakes world of surgery, reducing the dread of infection that had once been an unavoidable part of the process. However, the brothers sought more than just financial success. A belief underpins their efforts, a simple yet potent credo: do right by the people and profits will follow. Their name, Johnson & Johnson, started to mean more than just a brand. It was a symbol of trust, a promise of care. Amidst the grand narrative of Johnson & Johnson, there's a curious mystery. Why only 2 Johnsons in the name? What happened to the third brother, Edward Meade Johnson? Edward, the youngest of the trio, played a pivotal role in the company's early years. However, he was also a man with his own vision. In 1879, he separated from his brothers to launch a new venture focusing on dietary products. This venture now blossomed into what we know today as Meade Johnson Nutrition, a leading manufacturer of infant formula and nutritional products. Despite the separation, the bonds of brotherhood remained intact, with each contributing to healthcare in their distinct ways. Yet, in the title of their shared legacy, the elder Johnsons, Robert Wood and James Wood, etched their names, forming the Johnson & Johnson we know today. But this journey we're embarking on isn't just about their success. Beneath the surface of their achievements lay darker, more complex narratives. As we delve deeper, we'll uncover the tumultuous waves that rocked this seemingly steady ship. For Robert and James, the challenges were just on the horizon, waiting to unfold. In the bustling landscape of late 19th century New Jersey, the brothers were riding high on the success of their sterile surgical dressings. But they were not the type to rest. The spark of innovation in their eyes never dimmed, their minds whirring ceaselessly with fresh ideas. Each night their dreams were filled with visions of new ways to bring safety and comfort to homes and hospitals alike. It was during one of these fervent brainstorming sessions that they stumbled upon an idea. What if they could create a kit that contained all the necessary supplies to manage minor injuries? A kit so compact, it could be tucked into a carriage or a satchel. After many trials, the first commercial first aid kits were born. They were simple, practical, and indispensable. Word spread, orders poured in, and before they knew it, their kits were gracing the shelves of homes and offices, and even accompanying soldiers on battlefields. Around the same time, the Johnsons were facing a surplus of silk from their suture production. Rather than let it go to waste, James, the inventive one, came up with a novel solution: dental floss. It was a simple idea, but one that changed dental hygiene forever. Their resourcefulness had turned a byproduct into an everyday essential. As the 19th century drew to a close, Johnson & Johnson was a name that echoed in households across America. But the brothers' vision extended beyond the horizon. They sought to build up a healthcare empire, one that touched every phase of life. When they noticed an absence of specialized products for babies and mothers, they saw an opportunity. In 1893, they launched Johnson's Baby Powder. The product, a gentle formulation meant to soothe and comfort infants, resonated with mothers. It marked the beginning of a whole new chapter: maternity and baby care. Next, they introduced maternity kits, a response to the high infection rates in home births. These kits, equipped with sterilized tools, brought the assurance of safety to expectant mothers and midwives. The success was overwhelming, and their reach expanded. By the dawn of the 20th century, Johnson & Johnson was no longer a fledgling company. It was a healthcare giant, operating from multiple manufacturing sites, its products used in over 30 countries. But as we venture further into their history, we find that this golden path of progress wasn't without its thorns. How does a company balance relentless growth with uncompromising integrity? That's a question as complex as it is compelling. So stick around, because the next chapter is about to reveal some uncomfortable answers. The astronomical rise of Johnson & Johnson wasn't a sudden leap, but a calculated strategic move. It was the 1940s, and Johnson & Johnson, realizing the potential in other healthcare sectors, decided to venture further. It was a bold bet, but one that paid off. By the 1950s, they had a diverse portfolio, and the little bandage company was now a full-fledged healthcare conglomerate. But with great power comes great responsibility, and Johnson & Johnson faced its fair share of challenges. They had to deal with a new animal: the informed customer. These consumers, armed with knowledge and high expectations, demanded transparency and safety. Johnson & Johnson had to rise to the occasion, keeping up with the consumers' evolving needs while staying true to their core values. And then there was the regulatory landscape. The Food and Drug Administration, commonly referred to as the FDA, and its global counterparts were tightening the reins. Johnson & Johnson, along with other healthcare companies, were now under a microscope, and their every move under scrutiny. But this was nothing compared to what was about to come. As we step into this chapter, we find ourselves veering away from the shiny corridors of innovation and into the dimly lit backrooms of controversy. The first tremor in their trusty image emerged in the 1980s, encapsulated in two chilling words: Tylenol murders. In 1982, the humble city of Chicago woke up to a horrifying mystery. 7 innocent lives were abruptly extinguished after consuming Tylenol, a popular over-the-counter painkiller. The culprit? A lethal dose of cyanide, which is an extremely toxic chemical compound known to interfere with the body's ability to use oxygen, slipped into the painkiller capsules. Johnson & Johnson, the makers of Tylenol, were in no way responsible for this malicious tampering, but they found themselves thrust onto a stage of crisis. The company's response was swift and decisive. They yanked a staggering 31 million Tylenol bottles off the shelves, despite the colossal financial hit of £100 million. This bold move illustrated their unwavering commitment to customer safety, turning a potential catastrophe into a masterclass in crisis management. Yet, the next decade had a thornier challenge in store. The 1990s saw Johnson & Johnson under the harsh spotlight of price-fixing allegations. Picture a colossal chessboard with players strategically maneuvering to control market prices. Johnson & Johnson was accused of being one such player. Although they fought tooth and nail against these charges, the case concluded with an out-of-court settlement, leaving a smudge on their once untarnished reputation. As the 21st century dawned, Johnson & Johnson was hit with another wave of allegations. This time, the bone of contention was the marketing of their blockbuster schizophrenia-treating drug, risperidone. The company stood accused of promoting the drug for uses not approved by the regulatory bodies, a serious breach of trust. This scandal resulted in hefty fines and further dented their image. Over the years, Johnson & Johnson seemed to be a magnet for controversies, each one a dent on their armor of trust. This timeline underscores the sobering reality that even the giants can stumble. Now, you may wonder, how could a company that started off with the motto, "Do right by the people and the profits will follow," get entangled in such scandals? To answer this, we need to delve into the murky waters of the ethical dilemmas they faced. Do you dare to turn the page with us? A seemingly innocent bottle of Johnson & Johnson's baby powder. It's a staple in many homes, dusted on babies for decades. Yet within this familiar white bottle, a storm was brewing, one that would rock Johnson & Johnson to its core. In 2018, Reuters, an internationally renowned news agency, dropped a revelation as unsettling as it was unexpected. Traces of asbestos, a substance known of being capable of causing cancer, had been detected in Johnson & Johnson's talcum powder. Asbestos, a group of naturally occurring minerals, was once praised for its heat resistance and flexibility. Today, it's recognized as a silent killer. When inhaled, asbestos fibers lodge in the lungs, leading to diseases like asbestosis, lung cancer, and mesothelioma, often years after exposure. And unfortunately, once asbestos has developed in the body, there is no known cure. Now, let's talk. It's a clay mineral, mined from the earth in regions stretching from China to upstate New York. It's used in products from ceramics to cosmetics, thanks to its ability to absorb moisture and provide smoothness. Talc's journey from an underground deposit to the bottle on your shelf is a complex process, involving extraction, milling, testing, and packaging. So, what was the problem? Well, asbestos is often found in the same rock formations as talc. Even though Johnson & Johnson insisted their talc went through rigorous purification processes to remove potential asbestos, plaintiffs argued that Johnson & Johnson knew about the asbestos contamination for decades and chose silence over transparency, a decision that had devastating consequences. Lawsuits began to pile up, and so the courtroom battles began. Now, let's pivot from the geological and corporate drama to the real human lives touched by this crisis. One such life belongs to Diane Berg, the first woman to sue Johnson & Johnson in 2009. A resident of South Dakota, she claimed her ovarian cancer was linked to her long-time use of their talcum powder. Diane's fight wasn't just against her illness, it was a battle for accountability. By 2020, tens of thousands of similar lawsuits had been filed against Johnson & Johnson. Each case was a devastating story of alleged corporate negligence impacting personal lives. Plaintiffs like Darlene Cocker, who died in 2009, had long claimed Johnson & Johnson knew about the potential asbestos contamination. Her lawsuit, filed in 1999, was one of the earliest, but her voice was soon joined by thousands of others. These stories, spanning from the silent pain of asbestos-related diseases to the legal thunderstorms of the courts, portray a grim tapestry of corporate irresponsibility. Like a castle with strong walls, Johnson & Johnson held firm against the accusations. But no castle can withstand a siege forever. With billions in damages, a tumbling stock price, and eroded trust, the scandal didn't just poke a hole in Johnson & Johnson's finances, it ripped through the fabric of their reputation. A brand built on trust and care, now entangled in doubt and disbelief. The financial fallout was immediate and tangible. Yet the reputational damage, the loss of consumer faith, was a wound that wouldn't easily heal. For a company that had prided itself on its moral compass, this was perhaps the most devastating blow. Even though Johnson & Johnson has been through a storm, it's worth noting that they've also brought sunshine to the world. They've pioneered life-changing innovations like the first commercial first aid kits and revolutionary drugs that have saved countless lives. They've also played a pivotal role in global health crises, including their contribution to HIV/AIDS treatments, and more recently, the development of a vaccine for the pandemic. Their legacy, though tainted, is a complicated tapestry, woven with threads of both good and ill. As we come to a close, one question remains: can the good they've done outshine the shadows they've cast? We may not know the answers yet, but one thing is clear: the story of Johnson & Johnson has only just begun.